Hi, I'm Greg Braun and welcome to the third episode of the Power of Quality vlog series. Today I'm joined by Stockland's General Manager of Community Sales, Stephanie Vanin, to discuss the power, quality and importance of quality assurance in house land developments. Hi Stephanie, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks. Where are you beaming to us from?
I am beaming from my newly set up study in my newly built house.
So fantastic.
Still at the moment, but yeah, lovely to be in a new home when working in part isolation. It's been quite refreshing.
I bet. Did you get in there just before lockdown?
The week before. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. What timing?
Yeah. Timing, yeah.
Yeah, probably gave you time to do all the jobs you needed to do to get settled.
Yeah, actually has been a very timely actually, being able to get all the gardening done. So have welcomed a bit of the downtime actually.
For sure. General Manager of Community Sales, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been with Stockland now for just over 15 years. Yep. Started when I was about 12, as you can tell. And have had a really great, long career history with Stockland. More recently in a sales capacity, but a majority of my experience with Stockland has been in marketing roles across commercial property, residential, retirement and built form assets. So the full spectrum of property in itself. More recently, in the last couple of years, I now head up our community sales team and function, which encompasses community developments and land sales through to townhome developments and retirement living. So good spectrum, from one end, people entering the market as a first home buyer through to making sure that we make that transition into retirement as best it possibly can be for our customers. And at the heart of what we do at Stockland is build thriving, healthy, happy communities for the people that live and serve them. So making sure that we provide the services, the amenity, and deliver on the vision is absolutely mission critical and something I'm really proud to be part of.
Amazing, yeah. The idea of kind of that end to end, you've seen it all of the segments, if you will, and then the idea of quality around all of those probably changes slightly differently depending on your audience, which we'll get into. Before we do, I'm sort of really looking forward to hearing all of that. In the previous episode of this series, I was joined by Stacy Lewis, and what we've discussed there is new homes and apartments research. Specifically, so she's really good at unpacking the data and actually bringing the insight to that and understanding what it means to people when we talk about quality. So I want to talk to you about that same thing, but definitely with a focus on house and land developments. Maybe you can talk from your own experience from having moved in just a couple of months ago. Does that sound good?
Yep, sounds great.
Great. So I guess the first kick-off one, maybe an easy one, a general one, but quality I find is an interesting word. We've seen things like craft and vintage banded about, in everything that we do, from coffee to, obviously clothes from the vintage perspective, but even, apartments. So these words, I think, used to have some quite objectivity around them. But I think they've taken on quite a subjective meaning now. But when you think about quality, how does Stockland define it? What are you thinking about when you think quality there?
It's a really good question. When we think about quality, we think about this notion of we do what we say, and what we promise we deliver in all ends of the build journey through to the way in which we service you. So, this notion of, consistency is really important. If we really care about making sure that we leave a legacy in the communities in which we're building, because they are there for a long period of time, and they are the fabric of future communities. So when a lot of the work that we do around thinking about what are we building, who we're building it for, what's really important, are really key ingredients that go into a community. And it's part of, as little as, what are the kinds of materials that we're using, but it's also about thinking about who's this for, why is it important, and making sure it has that sustainable, ongoing value add that it delivers, both to the community that it serves, and more broadly than that. So, I think when you think about, from a consumer's mindset, when they're thinking about quality is something that, has a value around it. I'm paying for something that I think is going to deliver on my needs, and is better than what I was, considering somewhere else. And particularly with New Home and Land, when our biggest competitor in home and land is the established market. We've known that for a very long time. So, you do have choices. You can either buy somebody else's home and turn that into your home, or you can design it from scratch. You have so much more empowerment and control on the new build than you necessarily do on an older build. And that in itself, and even, making sure that you are making decisions and making investments that are making sure that you are adding value and ensuring that, from a home and land perspective, that it's going to land the test of time is really important. Starting from scratch sometimes is a lot easier than not. We hold true to this notion of when we build communities, that, we need to be thinking about not only the home, but the home is the sum of the parts. So we always make sure that, the home and the land that you're building with us is of top-notch quality. We work with reputable builders that, similar to us, we do what we say. We make sure that we are considerate about the open plan spaces, the design of the roads, all of the thinking that goes into that is really important, because in a Stockland and any master plan community, that's actually what you're buying. You're buying all and more. So we have to think about that in the context of the consumer as well when it comes to quality, because that's the benchmark that they're setting.
It's really interesting you should say that. It's come up in other discussions I've had in this series. This idea of, perhaps people go to the idea of like the building quality first in their mind. What's the things I can touch, and are they of good quality? But what you're saying is on top of that, there's this idea of quality community that you're building as well. So this kind of the stuff arguably outside of the property, and the energy and the environment and the feelings that people get when they're there. I think that's a really interesting way of looking at quality.
We've been running a consumer survey for well over 5 years now, which we call the Stockland Livability Index, and it essentially measures what the importance of the community, the soft elements, the hard elements, connections, as well as the home actually mean. And very interestingly, what we can see through that information time and time again is at the point of which you're buying, the home is the most important thing that you're thinking about. But when you live in the community, that's the least important thing. You actually care about the community. Have you made friends? Do you feel like you belong? Those things are so important. So we spend a lot of time bringing that to the forefront to make sure that people don't lose sight of that, because that is actually part of having a really happy, healthy life and feeling like that you're progressing and moving forward. So that's the magic sauce that we sort of say.
Isn't that interesting that, it's the default is where you go, where you live, but then the house, but then, it's only after you move in that everything changes, the priorities change. And what you're saying is you're trying to do that kind of foresight work to go, well, you need this dwelling and you need this community. What springs to mind when you talk about that is the blue zone idea, the notion of blue zones in places like Japan and places in Europe where, people are living to 100 years old because they're surrounded by good friends, and they eat good food and have great air and great water, and communities is a big part of their longevity of life. So it kind of feels like you're somewhat touching upon some of that.
Yeah, that's right.
My other question, which you've answered, was how do you know you're focusing on the right things? But of course, you've got this kind of consumer tap that you keep switching on and finding out what the sense of importance is amongst them.
I think that's incredibly important, and given that what we do around building communities and building communities that thrive. At the heart of that is the consumer. So if you are not in tune with what they need now and into the future, that's really important. We have a number of communities at various stages of their life cycle, and some smaller than others. One of our communities in the Sunshine Coast, an award-winning project, Aura, that'll take well over 40 years plus to develop. So if you think of the vision that we set today, we need to be thinking about how do you continue to deliver on that. We have a similar one in Melbourne, Cloverton. Master plan communities start with a vision, and those visions need to evolve over time, but important that people are coming on that journey with you. So knowing what is important at every step of the way is critical, but also anticipating the needs of future consumers is as important now. And if you think, 10 years ago, one of the, competitive advantages that we would sell in our brochures was purple pipe and fibre to the home. Now that's a bit of a given that you're going to have that.
Yeah.
But you can see that, you've got to tap into what's really important with consumers. And I'm pretty sure that in the last 12 weeks and the COVID period that we've been through, consumers are changing the things that are important to them, particularly from a house perspective around how they use their house, what's important in their house, and then even broader to the community which they live in. So understanding that and being able to translate is so critical.
Absolutely, yeah. I hadn't considered the longevity of some of your projects, and that we all are going to change our preferences and what we expect, and what's a hygiene factor in our kind of considerations to invest in something. But you're right, the pandemic and being at home, it's focused all of our minds in how we move around our not only our places that we live, but our communities and what we expect. So absolutely, I think we could probably have a session on that by itself. I will move on though. I think it's just about quality in your master brand strategy and your message. What are some of the things that you kind of really try and leverage there and feel it's important to get across?
Yeah, I think one of the advantages that we have is we've been around for quite a long time, so over 65 years. And, one of the things that stands true to quality is our ability to, we've got a proven track record of quality. You can drive around a completed Stockland community that you may not even know it is a Stockland community and get a sense of what it is that we deliver. And I think the ability for people to physically touch and feel what it is that you're doing is critical, particularly for master plan communities, because you are starting with a big vision. The start of any community is generally a big paddock with lots of grass and a big, bold vision of what that place is going to be. So that's really important for us, is being able to have that ability to rely on our ongoing reputation of delivery. We're also really big, and we invest a lot of money in making sure that we have good governance and controls in how we do what we do. Quality design, quality assurance is at the backbone, at the heart of our development principles. So we're very clear on what those principles are, and we make sure that they're embedded in every project that we deliver. It doesn't matter how big or small that is. And we work with really, really good strategic partners that help us deliver on those projects that have the same set of values that we do. And being customer centric at the heart of that makes sure that we're always thinking about it from the different lenses. So that's really important. We're able to really demonstrate that through our brand, and we make sure that that's woven into the narrative of all of our projects. So there's a level of consistency, as I said earlier, that is key. That when people see a Stockland community and a Stockland brand, they intricately know what that means because they've had an experience with it. So that's really important to us. Yep. And woven right through all of our functions, whether it's marketing or development, we're very clear on making sure that we start with those core principles around design and staying true to that too. And we're always checking in and making sure that we have really good disciplines to ensure that we're delivering on that as well.
Fantastic. Kind of that, just tying in the end-to-end process, your third-party suppliers, everything, everyone's kind of, definitely on the same page when it comes to what their expectations of Stockland is and what quality should be. I guess if that's the macro or the starting point for kind of setting the foundations, as it were, for quality, going to some of the micro issues that are around in the world right now, and I'd say world because I think it is probably a global issue. There's been some recent negative press around apartment quality issues, cladding and structural, which I think we're all pretty much aware of. Doesn't feel like that's going away too quickly. Has this had any impact in the house and land space as well? Is there kind of consumers asking those same questions of anything that's being newly built? And they're tricky questions, presumably.
Yeah, I think it's reinforced the importance of customers want to be more empowered than ever before now, and it's raised the importance of making sure that you can take customers on that journey. They are, at the heart of any property purchase. It's the biggest purchase decision that you make. You put a lot of your heart and soul into it. You want to make sure it's right. Consumers want to know that, and consumers trust that you are doing the right thing. So being very open and transparent about what you're delivering and how you're delivering is really important. From a home and land perspective, that has not been any different. And whether it's a home builder being very clear on their process of how they build a home, the structural guarantees, the warranties, the aftercare service are all really critical from a development perspective. Very similar, that you are delivering quality land, but also for us is the quality assurance around, are you building good parks with great and safe equipment? So whichever spectrum you look at it, there is an expectation from customers that you are doing the right thing, and this elevated that discussion with customers and to the forefront. The quality controls that are in place across home and land are already there. If anything, it's just reminded the industry that we need to maintain focus on that. Yeah. I am really happy to that we have good governance, and we have governance platforms within the category in the industry that keep everybody honest. We have it is a large industry where there are a lot of different, developers and builders out there. The ones that are, at large like us, take pride in making sure that we are leading the way for the industry and setting clear benchmarks. So if anything, it's made the industry review the benchmarks and make sure that, are we up to scratch of where we need to be? And also being very aware that you need to be more transparent with customers. If they ask this information, you need to disclose it. It's just it's a no-brainer now for me. I think it's very much around making sure that customers understand that, but also it also holds brands to another level of accountability as well around if you're really customer centric, then you're going to really make sure that you're holding yourself to high standards, and it's high standards in the eyes of other people.
Yeah. Is it something you feel the need to over communicate on, or is it something you address, or maybe you've always addressed it, or is it just as and when you need to?
You need to have a ongoing narrative around it, so it's important that you have a consistent dialogue. There are different parts of the journey that you should be dialing it up or down, depending on what decisions the customer is making. So, example for me would be, and I've just been through it myself, building a home. It is a very big process, and it is a very long process, and you make so many decisions. Knowing when you're making decisions around the house design, or the fixtures and the fittings, or what kind of cladding you want on the outside of your house, or what do you want your front to look like, all the things you need to think about at the time that you make those decisions. There should be a conversation around understanding what you're making a decision on. Particularly in the house and land space, where 60% of people who buy are first home buyers. That means they're first time builders. So we do have responsibility to make sure that we take them on that journey. I've been in the industry for a very long time, and even building my own house, there was a lot of bits that were new news to me that I had to get myself up to speed on. And whether or not it's from the brand that I was buying from, or being able to access the information has been really important, because I want to make sure I'm making the right decision. So if anything, it's making sure that as much as selling a proposition of what you do, is showing people how you do it is really important, because ultimately it's a product that's going to be theirs anyway. So I think definitely bringing it to the forefront, but acknowledging when in the customer journey you need to amplify that is critical.
That sounds like great advice. We've spoken earlier about this idea of quality in the build, quality in the community. Is there a third one that's about quality in the consumer experience? So some of the stuff that you're talking about on the journey. Very
true to my heart, the customer experience, and getting that right. We spend a lot of time, and we're investing an enormous amount of time and resources to really understand this, both from the customer journey point of view of what's the customer journey for a first-time buyer, what's the customer journey for a customer buying land, what does it mean if you're buying a townhome, an apartment, a retirement living product, and really understanding along that journey where the passion points are and where the pain points are. Mm-hmm. And we've probably been spending a lot more time addressing the pain points, and we're not the only people in the industry doing that, to ensure that we can turn them into memorable moments. We know that when we get them wrong, we get them very wrong. And the one that time and time again, no matter which customer you speak to, it's that big dark hole that you go into once you put your deposit down, and particularly when you're buying off the plan. Yeah. You're right. Everybody wants to be informed. Everybody wants to be empowered. Everybody wants to know what's going on more now than ever before. And now that we have information at our fingertips, that's just going to, enhance. So how do you respond to that has been a big focus on what we've been doing and anticipating how we can do it differently. So, keeping people up to date with the progress of the construction of land. It doesn't sound that great to, we go, oh, well, people want to understand that we put the curb and channel in. They actually like that. So it's very similar to, where is the status of my apartment? At what point can I come in and have a look? They're all milestones that help people feel confident about the decision that they made. And in the context of the quality too, gives them an opportunity to actually see it come to life and be part of that journey. So yeah, definitely understanding that. Also, once you've understood the journey and you're actually addressing that through better comms or better experience or better service, is also continually tapping into it to know that you're getting it right or you're getting it wrong. We use an enormous amount of surveys, conversations that we can to understand, how that experience has been. There's a product experience and there's a service experience that needs to be addressed at the same time.
To your point about just keeping people informed and sending them, information that you think is not that important, I always feel like there's a captive audience. They're a captive audience that are, desperate for information, and they're going to tell people about it because they want it. They're excited about their purchase, and they're going to pass that on. And again, this word of mouth idea is so important in this space. Yeah. Not necessarily the biggest driver because people don't have as much experience with it, but in purchase decisions, word of mouth is so important, and this is a great opportunity to really kind of propel that forward, I think.
Exactly.
So what's some of the things that have worked best for you from a kind of customer engagement perspective? Is it about sending bits of, we've just dug up the foundations and this is what we've found, or is it drone footage or whatever? What are some of the kind of activations that you've used?
Yeah, we have, depending on the type of product that we have, we've got a lot of different initiatives at different phases of the journey. We found that keeping people up to date, instant kind of communication has been really important. So embracing digital has been really key. Our, web platform has always been around acquisition, has been structured around acquisition. We're now thinking about, well, how does that play a role in keeping those who have purchased with us informed? So providing a portal for people who are in that construction build phase, access to a link where they can just jump in and find out where we're at with certain things has been really helpful. Providing reminder emails and little SMSs that keep them informed, and giving them reminders of, at this point in the journey, this is where we're at, but this is what you need to be doing. So these little tips and tricks help. Again, very instant and regular reminders. We get a lot of feedback that they really welcome. They really welcome that. There's they've got a life that they're leading at the same time. We're all really busy, but that next step focus has been something of real value. And as you said before, we're the experts. They are actually expecting us to help them on that journey and anticipate. So really anticipating. The other really great initiative we have is for master plan communities is a walk your block, which is very similar to, doing an inspection of your apartment. But that actually is an event that we create that gives you the chance to actually stand on the land that you've purchased and really get a sense of the space. Brilliant. But next to you is your new neighbour. So it gives you the ability to also meet who are going to be hopefully your neighbours and friends in time, and start creating those early connections. So we look at opportunities now to play an advocate role and a connection role to the community that you're going to be in. Overwhelmingly, such a great way to get people connected and start that process, as well as bringing the experts that they need at that time. So we do a lot of that. We've introduced virtual walk-ins of townhomes and hopefully apartments soon when we deliver those. So you can do it at the comfort of your own home, but also the ability to obviously come in and book an appointment to come and see. So providing lots of different opportunities is key. Drone footage, I think, has actually been a game changer for the industry. Being able to visualise a master plan community is so important. And we know through lots of research that we do that if you can visualise, if you can take the vision that you sell around what this community is going to look like, and are able to articulate that in a way that people can connect to it, you have a far greater chance of driving greater connection to your brand, but it also speeds up their decision-making process of that they'll do something with you. So drones play a good role of actually showcasing how a project's coming to life. You can narrow down on someone's purchase far greater than you can do on a piece of paper. So
for sure, yeah. I love the idea of just bringing the experience to life in any way that you can. 3D floor plans just don't do it for me. I can't get my head around it. I don't know how I'm going to move around the building, the space, whatever it might be. So all of these things just help connect all of those dots, and 3D tours, like they're massive wins for me as far as I'm concerned.
And visualization plays a role in quality, because they get a sense of the thinking that you've put behind it to be able to say, and that's why we've made these decisions, or that's the kind of park you can expect, or this is the quality of the townhome and the features that are within that that you can expect from us. And the more you visualize it, obviously you then deliver it, the two connect, and that's where it gets quite powerful.
And the effort you put into making these experiences, real for people, that is another sense I would imagine consumers would have, that it's been thought about, it's been considered well. It's an intrinsic sense of quality, even though you might not initially define quality in that way. It just gives you another sense that you care, and you've given this some real consideration for their future purchase, which is amazing. Exactly. Just the final one, and I'll let you go. I guess it's this idea, and you mentioned it earlier, about kind of buying new versus established. Quality comes up, large proportion, about 77% of house and land buyers highlighted quality as a reason and a key benefit they're actually going to buy new. But then they've got, they're still thinking about established market and all the things that are going on there. But how do you think developers can really capitalize on that overwhelming stat?
Part of the consumer mindset around that is this: I can control my own destiny if I build. We know, so we capitalize on that a lot around, for a customer, to make a choice. You can buy somebody else's dream home and turn that into yours. And there's some great benefits of doing that. Or you can build it from scratch. And the benefit of building a home from scratch, it's modern. It comes with better warranties. It is built for, the climate of today. You've got modern appliances, and arguably it can be a lot cheaper than, potentially what you could invest in a renovation, not once, but you probably do multiple. So there is a cost benefit to doing that. The part for a large-scale developer or any developer of building communities is making sure that not only, again, as I said earlier, it's not just about the house. So when customers are still toying with the idea of going into the established market, it's generally because of the sense of community or the suburb or the street that they're in. So our job is to make sure that you get a brand new house in a beautiful community that delivers the same kind of lifestyle that you would probably want in a tree-lined street in inner Melbourne, that people are drawn to, that still has the cafe down the road and the buzz in the community. That's what they're seeing as a quality life.
Yep.
So we really spend a lot of our time thinking about how do we make sure that community has that buzz, has all the things that make it special. You can work, live, play, shop, have friends with everybody, and you have the benefit of going into the sanctuary of your beautiful new home. It needs to stack up with where you've come from. And generally people who are building in master plan communities are coming from established areas. So they've got frames of reference that we'll be comparing and judging against. So a lot of what we do is making sure that we can demonstrate that livability promise around this will ultimately be a place that can deliver that and more, but also not forgetting that, the big decision that they're still making is this quality of this home. So we sort of play the role of expanding it a little bit more to say the home is important, but your life is so much more.
Yeah, wonderful. What a great way to wrap this up. I've really enjoyed today's discussion. It's been awesome to gain further insight on this topic, power of quality and quality assurance. A massive thank you from me, from REA, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Good to meet you. See you later.
Thanks. Bye-bye.